Thank you so much for having us. I'm sorry we're not who you expected at this time, but we'll be here for the next sort of 25 minutes talking about spatial data science and data science careers. I'd like to start with one of my favorite facts or things I've read about data science in the last few years, which is that Harvard Business Review said that the data scientist is the sexiest job title of the 21st century. So I hope you've all got it in your Tinder profiles. But what we're here to sort of what we're sort of here to talk about today is actually the more I talk to people across the industry and in academia, it's not necessarily something that translates to the spatial world. A lot of people are saying they're having trouble with attracting talent, with retaining talent. So hopefully that's what this panel is going to be shedding some light on today, and we'll definitely save some time for questions at the end. So let's just go along the panel and quickly introduce ourselves. So Adam, I'll start with you, please.
Hello, hi, my name is Adam Dennett. I'm a professor of urban analytics at UCL in the Center for Advanced Spatial Analysis, where I'm also currently the head of department. And I guess, over the last 10 years or so, we've probably had almost 1,000 spatial data scientists come through, and we've trained them. So I guess I'm at the kind of coalface of training, the generations of spatial data scientists that are emerging, and sort of, I know there's a lot of people in this room, or I've seen quite a few people who've come through CASA in this room, which is fantastic. And so that's my role.
Fantastic, thanks. Jeremy?
I'm Jeremy Morley. I'm the Chief Geospatial Scientist at Ordnance Survey. So not quite data scientist, a geospatial scientist. So in that capacity, I lead the research team at OS. And so both internally, we have both research scientists and data scientists, something we'll come back to maybe in a moment. But also, we sponsor research around universities particularly, but also with other businesses. So we interact a lot with that kind of external world of scientists as well.
Awesome, thanks Jeremy. Jeremy also had the pleasure of being my lecturer when I was doing my undergrad.
Yes, I'm a recovering academic.
I'm so sorry. And Charlie.
Hi everyone, so my name's Charlie Dacke. I'm Head of Geospatial Technology and Standards at the Office for National Statistics. And my role at ONS is to ensure that geospatial infrastructure really is available to all of our analysts within ONS, and also wider than that on a program called the Integrated Data Platform, which ONS are leading on. So that's a cross-government secure research platform.
Awesome, thank you so much. What a great lineup, I'm so excited. So I'm actually quite annoyed with Flo because she stole my bit. I was going to do the thing where I asked people to put their hands up and say what job title to do with spatial or GIS or geospatial they have, because I think it's where I'd like to start with this conversation. Quite often we talk about how spatial is special. I often see it in slide titles or in names of presentations. Spatial is something that we think of as a bit different to data science, but I think it sort of speaks to how we're maybe struggling a little bit with identity in spatial. We have all these different names for what can be quite similar positions. We sort of position ourselves slightly separate to sort of standard data analysis. So I often wonder if that's part of the reason why we struggle to attract people to the industry, is that we're branding ourselves differently, but our branding is quite confusing. Can you tell I've been working in a marketing team for the last year talking about branding? Jeremy, I'd like to start with you. What's your sort of thoughts about, is spatial special? Is it not special? Is that acting as a confusion to people?
Well, I think spatial data science is interesting in being intersectional, that you have the two things there already together of data science and spatial. And so you have to be interested to some extent in both those things to be interested in that intersection, And it's the perpetual question, I think, for geospatial or geography or whatever is it better to have geospatial training and then learn, 10, 20 years ago it was programming and then now it's data skills and so on? Or is it better to learn those skills first and then learn the geographic components of that? And I think, obviously, probably in any organization, the answer is you probably want a bit of both of that, because data science without understanding geography and geographic principles, you miss a lot of things about spatiality and spatial trends. But if you're coming from the geography background, it can be really difficult to assimilate those data skills and so on. So yeah, it's that intersectionality, I think, that maybe makes it difficult. And as an industry, I think we sometimes overprotective about spatial being special. But there are elements of spatial thinking and geographical understanding that are important here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you make a really interesting point. I often think one of the worst skills you can, or not skills, habits you can have when you work with data is just being so close to the data and not being able to take that step back and think about it in the broader context, and often that geographical background can be helpful there. But Charlie, I was interested in, so you work at the Office for National Statistics, you obviously work with a lot of geospatial people, but also a lot of non-geospatial data people. How sort of separate are they at the ONS? Do they overlap very much? Is it just one team? What's the sort of setup there?
Yeah, sure. So we're finding that we're sort of moving far more towards data science as being the kind of center of our recruitment process and more important for the geospatial analysis. So we have geospatial analysts within our own team, the geospatial team. We also have a data science campus and quite a few people within the campus actually who have a leaning towards geography and are becoming more excited about geography. But these two things really are merging. I just wonder to what extent, because we talk about data scientists being the sexiest job. In this room, we all know how sexy a map is, right? We're not going to get away from that. Us geographers, we love it. So, I think when it comes to bringing the two things together and what do you do first, data science is more important than ever now. So I think, from my view, guessing the data science as the more generalist discipline and introducing where people haven't already been introduced to geography and geospatial, introducing it to them and getting them excited about it is the way forward. And it's easy to do because geography is actually sexy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. Nothing sexier than longshore drift. Adam, I'm curious how it sort of works in academia, or like how, oh, sorry, I'm hitting my microphone, they told me not to do that. How the courses split up. Do you have like data science courses and spatial data sciences? Do they overlap? Is one more popular than the other?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if you look at the kind of evolution into sort of spatial data science, it's come, I guess, sort of from GIS, I suppose. 10, 20 years ago, people were talking about GIS, and that was kind of a little corner of geography. And if you look at the way that sort of, university geography courses are sort of structured around the UK, there's not a whole lot of institutions that have kind of very strong data, kind of GIS, sort of spatial data kind of elements in those courses. I mean, you go to universities, like Cambridge or Durham, very sort of, well-regarded institutions, but not very much in the way of kind of, data and sort of, lots of critical geography, lots of kind of, physical stuff. And
it's declining, right? I think I read recently that the University of Newcastle did a geospatial and engineering undergrad course that they had to stop due to lack of students. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I don't know about that institution, but I was at the Jesuit conference in Glasgow recently, and I was chatting to the person who introduced me to this field, a guy called Duncan Wyatt, who's professor of GIS, and he was the first person to ever teach me any GIS. And he was telling me that at Lancaster, it's becoming completely marginalised. He's about the only person left doing anything. So there are, in other parts of the country, though, it's growing. So Alex is here from Liverpool, and there are kind of new hubs of sort of geospatial data science that have emerged. But it's not across the board. If you're leaving school and you're interested in spatial things and you picked a geography degree, you might luck out and end up going to Leeds or UCL or Nottingham or somewhere where there's a bit of a history of sort of GIS going on. But you might end up at an institution where it's you're going to be taught very different stuff. And so the pathways into a kind of spatial data science career from geography are limited. And so I guess you're seeing there's pretty much every university in the country has got a computer science department and training lots of people in kind of programming and kind of technical skills, but not very many that would really even consider the spatial end of things. So.
Yeah.
I think some of that goes back to the skill bases in those departments as well. Data science is relatively new field in some ways, and are the academics in particularly geography departments coming on with those skills to be able to embed it and teach it in those courses is part of that. That teaching at universities is inherently about what the academic staff there are capable or keen to teach as well, and so that's definitely part of that feedback, and there's always a lag between those things, I think.
I wonder to what extent the sort of geospatial and geography experts within universities who will be recognising this move away from that discipline can sort of get in there with the academics that are teaching the data science and say, can we come along and can we do a module on this subject for you to try and get people more enthusiastic about it?
I think going back to Adam's point, this is where the rise and fall of the natural cycle in some of these departments happen, is there will always be, on the other hand, kind of younger academics coming through and setting up departments who understand those new trends, and that's why you get different departments at different universities coming and going in these areas, is because you get a new centre of enthusiasm as much as anything. So,
Annie, both of you, Jeremy and Charlie, I imagine you hire quite a lot of, sorry, I think that's my microphone. I imagine you hire quite a lot of sort of early careers people, first getting started in spatial, in data science. If we're seeing sort of low levels of uptakes in courses in universities, are you also seeing that translating to when you're trying to hire people at that sort of level or any level?
You go.
I don't think that there's necessarily an issue. If you're going sort of more for the data science route or graduates coming in, as we have done in the past, with a whole variety of different degrees, but some kind of data science background and possibly an interest in location-based analysis. They're coming through, they're enthusiastic at that point, it's absolutely great. There's lots of technicality for them to get involved in. But yeah, it becomes more complicated, I think, further down the line when we're talking about the difference between having a specialism and generalizing as well, especially in the tech industry, because there's more opportunities out there for people who are more generalist, and it just means that there's more open to them, I think.
I think I'd probably go along with that. It's not necessarily so much the recruitment in the first place of data scientists. I think it's the combination of bringing them up to speed with some of that spatial thinking and the geographical elements and giving them that. But then it's more about then the retention after a couple of years in the job when they have been settled and start to see the opportunities outside of public sector organisation and the possible kind of difference in pay or opportunity, and that's where it starts to come in.
So yeah, let's move on and talk a little bit about those sort of mid-late stage career options. I think something we talked about a little bit in the prep call, and I think it's something that I've had a lot of conversations with in the geospatial industry, is as you tend to get more senior and more experience, you start to naturally maybe move away from the more technical elements of the role, more practical elements of the role, go into managing people or projects or budgets. Do you think that's something that people struggle with in the data science spatial industry? Because a lot of us really love working with data, and so moving away from that can be really tough. Do you think that's something to do with retention, or do you think there's other things going on? I mean, you spoke a bit about the sort of private-public sector movement.
Yes, I'm not sure that's a new thing. I think it's the nature of life is that as you progress, most people end up having to move away from doing the technical day-to-day stuff. If you're in a technical role, eventually that comes to us all, and maybe it's a bit more acute now for people in that kind of data science area that they're so into that kind of bit of analysis that they don't want to give it up. But I see it with some of our research scientists as well as the kind of purely data scientists, that they want to stay embedded a bit in the day-to-day of the research, and that's what got them into it in the first place. But and that becomes a struggle as you start to manage projects instead of being the project officer. Then naturally there's a trend towards the things that aren't the technical.
And do you think in your organisations there is a difficulty for people with data science or GIS backgrounds to move into those positions where they maybe it's often such a different skill shift. Charlie, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we definitely see this within ONS and within the public sector as well, where you get to a certain level and you do have to move away from the more technical roles if you want to progress into more leadership roles. I think there might be a difference here between public and private sector, because with the rates of pay, you can certainly sort of hang on to your sort of technical involvement for longer, I think. But we do see a certain level of resentment for people who want to remain highly technical, who can't necessarily progress up the ladder. Yeah.
Well, I think there's probably a role to be played by the employers here a little bit. It becomes a sort of recruitment and retention issue. I mean, very recently we've seconded into CASA somebody who runs a group in Arup, Arup, big engineering consultancy, and was, a little bit ground down by the day-to-day, client-focused project, just finish this project, next client, and had kind of moved away a bit from doing the kind of more technical stuff that he had originally been employed for, but was able to convince his employers that, actually for them to retain his services and for him to kind of have a fulfilling job, then maybe 1 or 2 days a week seconded into CASA to do some research work would kind of enhance his quality of life. And so that happened. Okay, he had a bit of capital available, and that he was they wanted to retain him and keep him, and we're trying to think of ways to do that. But I think it could be something that other employers could think about, in the way that, working from home now is a sort of, another thing that some people may use to kind of differentiate, well, I want to work for that company because they allow me, 3 days a week to work from home and 2 days in the office or whatever. And, so as well as salaries, yes, you can give people loads more money, but does it ever necessarily always equate to happiness? And, I know some of our graduates in extremely well-paid jobs who actually are not all that happy because, they don't always get to do nice, fulfilling, interesting, playing with data sort of stuff, which has some value, but maybe not immediately the kind of commercial value. So I do think there's a role for the employers here to sort of recognize that actually, maybe in retaining good people, having a kind of balance of their activities and not just, lumbering them with a load of, management and kind of, meetings to go to and all the kind of stuff that we all hate.
I think this depends quite a bit on the size and type of organisation. I think if you're talking about SMEs and startups, roles are rather more fluid there anyway, possibly, versus big organisation like Arup or public sector organisations. So it depends quite a bit on both the structure of the organisation and a bit about how hierarchical different work functions are, but then also critically about that kind of training and actually things to do with diversity and all sorts of things all interplay in this. I'm not sure there's a one-size-fits-all answer for this across those different organisation types.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, sorry, Charlie.
I think the point about diversity is really important as well. And I think that, again, there might be a difference here between public and private sector, but certainly our organisation, we want to develop people. So when we go out to recruit, we're not necessarily looking for somebody that can tick absolutely every single box. We want to be able to bring someone in who's the right person with the right attitude and train them and give them opportunities to develop as well. Whereas I guess in the private sector, it might be more kind of full on right from the outset.
I think not looking for unicorns is an important thing, of not looking for someone with the complete kind of skill set.
We've all seen those job descriptions. And like, you must be fluent in all of these coding languages, having exactly 5 years in exactly this industry.
Yes. But that, I think, goes back then to understanding what you really want from the person. Are you looking for someone with deep geographical understanding or someone with the data skills thing that you're going to build on? Or the mix of those things in your team, understanding what you're after is really critical then in understanding what you can build and develop in that person or how they will fit in the teams and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hearing so much about how development is so important, and you shouldn't necessarily look for the exact right fit for a role, but look for attitude. And I feel like I often hear that curiosity is one of the most important qualities that a data scientist can have. I also really love Adam's idea about offering personal development or the ability to work with research groups or charities as part of a compensation package to help people stay engaged with industry. I think that sounds great. My timer's gone red, and we've got 3 minutes left, and I don't want to be the person to make us go over time. So I'll just see if there's any questions from the audience. Oh, we have one straight up here.
Just in terms of the resources online, say you didn't go to university to learn data science or geography or is there a good place to go look for this, in terms of like self-teaching, I guess?
There's a lot of stuff out there, I think. I mean, a lot of our courses in CASA are actually online. If you dig around, you can find, you could just pick them up and teach yourself. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. I mean, telling you what to Google, I'm not quite sure. But, a lot of our students come having, taught themselves a bit already, maybe a bit of coding. There's lots of kind of code camp stuff and things like that. So yeah, it does exist. I couldn't give you the number one resource to go and find there.
I think it's a bootstrapping problem a bit. It depends how much you know already to be able to look and understand for the thing you're reading. So cold start might be more difficult, but if you've understood that you need to find out more, I think that's a simpler thing to do that way.
Very quick. Generative AI is in every single conversation these days, so I wanted to get some early thoughts. How do you see, or how do you envision that applying to the recruiting process, or how do you think artificial intelligence may play a role in skills detection, gaps, candidates? I know it's a broad question, but I wanted to see if you had any early thoughts.
The question was, how does artificial intelligence play a role in skill development? Correct.
Or in recruitment? Well, it's early days, I think. It's clearly going to be an important kind of line in the future, and it'll be interesting to see how many people an organisation needs who have the deep understanding of what's going on under the hood with these different models. I mean, we have experts, whether they're research scientists or data scientists, who are into machine learning and deep learning and all these other models under the hood. But there's this whole new area of prompt engineering. How long will it be before we're looking for prompt engineers? Who knows,
I'd just like to add a perspective on that. I think it's going to make things harder for the recruiters, because one of the biggest uses I see for AI out there in general is people building CVs and applying for jobs. So now when you put a job advert out there, suddenly you're going to maybe lots more people can apply for it because they have the time to apply for it.
That's what my question was going, not so much on having the skills, but how does generative AI blends into the overall process? Being in curriculums, companies or public sector searching for candidates using bots as opposed to human resources. That opens a whole can of worms.
Yeah. I think the one thing I'd say is if you're getting one of these LLMs to build your own CV, check it carefully that it's not made something up for you, Used to fly planes for the RAF or something suddenly appearing.
I think it could also be really helpful for people building job descriptions who don't necessarily have the expertise in that job. So say if your manager is actually a transport planner, but they're looking for a spatial data scientist, it could help them work out what are the exact right skills they might need for their use case. I think maybe one more question, if that's allowed. Thank you. It's flashing angrily at me now.
I'll try to be quick. John Ditrapani Sistra and CASA alumni as well. Kind of going back to the question on the technical career and the becoming a boring manager career. We're having that kind of problem in Sistra as well. And I think some of it comes down to people who want to stay in technical. There are the limits to more formal recognition. So say we've got, you can kind of go down the routes of a chartered engineer or something, but there's not really the kind of more obvious data science or geospatial chartership recognition perhaps that exists. And we're seeing that from clients as well, are asking for Chartership, in the kind of bids and things that we do. Have any thoughts on, is that developing? Is that something that we need to kind of focus on a bit more in terms of that formal recognition?
Are you aware of Chartered Geographer?
Yeah. But I think, there's still there's geography, and then there's that question of, is it data or not, and kind of what route do you go down that way?
Maybe we need a new category in the Chartered Geographers.
I think some of the professional bodies have been talking about kind of cross-accreditation between professional bodies, and that might help, of shared accreditation between some of these things. The trouble with some of these new subject areas is they aren't exactly one thing or another, and fall between pillars a bit.
So I was in a conversation at UCL yesterday, and they're in the process of kind of developing a new micro-credentialing framework. So for continuing sort of professional development sort of stuff, if you're into macro-credentialing, by the way, just a nice sort of segue. We actually in CASA at the moment, we have a bunch of scholarships available for this year, £10,000 scholarships. We've got 24 of them. Not very many people have taken them up yet, because they were only announced about a month ago. So if you're interested in macro-credentialing and would like to get an MSc in urban spatial science, then please do have a look at the CASA website. But hopefully in the future we will also have options available for more kind of continuing professional development. And it's something that UCL is seriously looking at, I think. So.
Since we're doing adverts, stop me and buy one if anyone's interested in PhDs. They're very difficult to recruit people for at the moment.
We also have a PhD available. If anyone's interested.
Charlie, do you want to do an advert? I feel like it's only fair.
There's going to be quite a few geospatial and data science opportunities coming up at the Office for National Statistics, so look out for them.
Yeah.
Awesome. CARTO is always hiring, so I think that's all we've got time for. Thank you so much for listening to our panel. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Please join me in giving a huge hand to our speakers.